Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss about homographic encryptions. Uh, Very important topic, and I believe we have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith and Madam Victoria from Russia. So yes, USA has a lot of innovations. Russia also have a lot of innovations. Let's start our discussions about homographic encryption. I want to start from Professor David Smith. Professor David Smith, how you want to analyze today's topic? I believe our topic will be very helpful for academy because we will share our content to few university today.
Well, thank you, Sharif. Yeah, the the topic of encryption, and particularly homomorphic encryption, is very important to both the academia because this is still in its infancy, as it has some challenges still to work out. But it's also going to be very important to business and government. And to kind of get into it, homomorphic encryption allows computation on data that is still encrypted. So normally when you encrypt data, you have to decrypt it to run applications against it. What homomorphic does is let you do that without it. Thus, the data can remain confidential while it's processed, which really lets you do operations against the data in some untrusted environments. Homomorphic crypto systems use public key encryption like others that only allows individuals with matching private keys to access this encrypted data. But what really sets it apart from others is it uses an algebraic system to allow you and others to do some, but not all, operations on it. It's really kind of interesting as you go back and look at the early parts of it. The term homomorphic is actually in mathematics a term that describes the transformation of one data set into another data set while preserving relationships between the elements in both sets. And it actually comes from the Greek word for the same system. Uh, and because of the fact that the data stays in its same system, the same structure when you're acting upon it while it's encrypted, that's really where it goes and gets its name from. Um, Homomorphic encryption is relatively new. It was first really proposed back in 1978 and has begun to go forward from there. There's three general types of homomorphic encryption: partially, somewhat, and fully homomorphic encryption. And where you see most of it today is either partially or somewhat. Partially is one that you begin to see in things like it's part of the foundation for RSA encryption, which is what we use when we establish SSL and TSL connections through our browsers. Um, the somewhat homomorphic encryption lets you do selected operations, so either addition or multiplication, but you cannot get to the full set of mathematicals. And fully homomorphic encryption is where we want to go, and there's still some challenges to get there. Um, the security of the encryption is reasonably high. It's based on something called ring learning with errors, uh, which is a pretty hard mathematical problem that lets you begin to look at high dimension latencies as you go through it. Um, and there's really quite a few early applications on it. Some of the early applications is it's being used to secure data that's in your cloud. And you can put data up there, but still compute against it. Another one is looking at using data encrypted, but still operating in regulatory industries like in finance, uh, in healthcare. And you're beginning to see it used more and more. We use some of it to develop a predictive analytic set of medical data where we were protecting the patient's private information there, but yet we kept most of the data in a homomorphic encryption state because it's faster and we could do more with it. I mentioned that there are two limitations of it today. One of them is it really doesn't support multiple users. So you cannot use it with many people interacting on it at the same time. We used it because we funneled all the requests through one access point, and that's what made it work well for us. The next limitation is you really cannot run very large and complex algorithms against it yet. It just takes too much time. And we've seen that. IBM implemented a version of it that was real interesting, but it took about 75% longer to run a massive data set against it than it did for it not to be encrypted in this way. But all the big people, IBM, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they are all working today to implement versions of homomorphic encryption. So, Sharif, I think that's a decent introduction to get us started.
Thank you, Professor David Dispin. Thank you, Mr. Tom, for joining today. We have our honorable guest, Mr. Paul. I think he is in COP26. So we will know some information like what's going on inside COP26. And hopefully it will be very, very helpful for our audience in Asia Pacific. Mr. Paul, what is your experience and how you want to share your experience with our audience about COP26?
Okay, thank you, Sharif. So it's not I'm not talking to homomorphic encryption, as just so everybody understands. So the COP26 today is the final day. I thought it might be extended another day, as these COPs often are, but there's no indication that that's the case. So I'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'll talk about some of the good first. So last week, there were agreements to reduce methane emissions by 30% by 2030. And there was also an agreement last week to stop deforestation globally by 2030. Of course, this occurred with the signatories at the conference. Of course, it doesn't include, the people that didn't attend, like India, Russia, China, most notably. There were more money pledges for adaptation, especially in developing countries that need it the most. But I should caution that in previous COPs, there's been pledges that were not fulfilled, not fully met. Just a few days ago, there was a big announcement that U.S. and China had been in talks and agreed to slow emissions by 2030. So this is a hopeful sign, although there wasn't hard and fast commitments that were made. But I think it's important geopolitically because there's been some friction between U.S. and China. So maybe they can sort out some of that other friction or reduce it by, acting, if they do act together, to slow emissions. So I think Greta spoke a bit too early when she said the COP26 was a complete failure, and she said that last, 5 or 6 days ago, and then left the COP on a train. She was only there the first week, so I think that was a bit premature. I'm not sure about the urgency level of governments and politicians. I don't see it being sufficient because they continue to subsidize fossil fuels and they subsidize oil and gas, and those subsidies are according to Peter Carter, who showed some data from the International Energy Agency, those subsidies, which can be divided into direct plus indirect, are still projected to be increasing over the next 4 or 5 years at least. So if world leaders are not able or willing to eliminate subsidies on fossil fuels, then that's a key metric that says, what's the point of all these other agreements and stuff, because that's the major one of importance. And as long as greenhouse gases continue to increase exponentially in the atmosphere, then these agreements, et cetera, have been insufficient to address the root cause of the problem. Lots of young people at COP, lots of NGOs. The city of Glasgow, basically everywhere you go in Glasgow, you see signs, posters in the transportation systems and on streets and businesses about the importance of addressing climate change and dealing with it, taking action. The urgency level among young people has notched way up since Paris and Madrid, the last two COPs that I attended, also Lima before that. Young people are literally in tears, and they feel that they're fighting for their lives, and they're mobilizing in large protests. There was a protest earlier in the week, or earlier in the COP, of 100,000 people. They figure were in the streets in Glasgow for that protest. And, the numbers were expected to be 20 to 40,000, 20, 30,000, 40,000 maybe. But so the numbers were much, much higher. So, so it's still, it seems to be a very incremental process to deal with climate change, abrupt climate change, but it's not sufficient yet. But there is some encouraging activity. For example, scientists ran a booth in the exhibitions area called the Cryosphere Center, and they had constant talks from various scientists and lots of good displays and stuff talking about the urgency of preserving snow and ice in the Arctic. And they're calling for 50% reductions of emissions by 2030. So they call it a 50 by 30 program. And if that's not obtained, then we will have many irreversible on human timescale things happening, starting, including the loss of Arctic sea ice, the continued thawing of permafrost, releasing methane into the atmosphere. And just as an aside, we've seen methane levels spike upwards in the last 6 months, especially in the Arctic region. I mean, it's coming out when the permafrost thaws, the organic material released decomposes, producing CO2 and methane. Methane, if it's submerged, or there's in an anoxic environment, if there's water submerging it. So it's extremely. So I talked a lot with the group called the Climate Emergency Forum, and a little bit with another group called Facing Future in press conferences almost on a daily basis to try to educate people as to the urgency of what we're facing. The extreme weather events are skyrocketing because the Arctic is warming so much. And I also cautioned, tried to repeatedly caution and say, when we lose the Arctic sea ice and extreme weather events continue to worsen, we face the risk of global food shortages, of simultaneous crop failures, cascading feedbacks, leading to global food shortages, price spikes, geopolitical unrest, and perhaps even global famine. So I'm just trying to educate people through my videos and through attending the COP and my press conferences to let at least I know it's going to happen. Okay, in a number of years, say we have a food shortage, food crisis, people are going to throw up their hands and say this was totally unexpected, and that's total nonsense. There's many people like myself that are cautioning the world that this is very, very possible. In fact, maybe even probable in the near-term future if we continue business as usual. So thank you, Sharif, for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for joining today's session. I know you are very busy. I just want to share with you a few good news. Even World Talent Economy Forums, we strongly believe in these climate change issues, and we want to arrange conference on climate change. But this December 1 to 3, we have special episode and special conference with Rwanda governments and Ministry of Health, Ministry of Trade and Industry. Prime Minister, President Office, Ministry of Charge of Culture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Defense, and all of their university, all of their ambassadors will join in their event, and definitely you people will be the speakers. This is one thing, and second thing, in January we will arrange a Halal Angel Networks conference. Perhaps we will engage with 57 countries, with government, with corporation, and all of the largest universities. So Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, all of the Muslim country, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they will join in this event. So definitely climate change is a very, very important issue. We need to be very much careful. Even World Talent Economy Forum, we are working with developing nations. So developing nations has a lot of challenges with this climate change. So your guideline and those who are leaders in climate change area, if they join in World Talent Economy Forum, and if we collaborate, we can launch a largest conference with the help of developing nations. So thank you, Mr. Paul.
Okay, well, thank you, Sharif, again for all of the incredible work that you're doing running this channel, and thank you for everybody on encryption for listening in on me.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye for now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Paul, actually president of TEF. I know that TEF has an excellent program. I think upcoming March, right? Next year, March, you want to arrange a big conference in Africa. So this is, I think, a very big achievement for your careers and for us as well. Definitely, we will collaborate and we will support. I think Victoria and Mr. Tom, both of you visited Africa. So what's your experience? And if you add some point about homomorphic encryption, Mr. Tom. Can you unmute, please?
Sorry, it's very early here. As far as homomorphic encryption, I'm really just here to learn. I'm going to pay attention to what David has to say and learn about that. It's not really my field. So I often, as you know, come on just to learn. As far as the TAF's conference coming up in March, I'm very excited. We did just get back from South Africa. Victoria and Oak and Brenda and Ugo and I toured a couple of properties and did a lot of talking and organizing about this conference coming up. And we've got a lot of projects that are going to happen between now and then, because that we'll use that conference to update and report on the progress of certain projects that we're starting right now, which are exciting. And a lot of people doing different types of projects. So we're reining all that in, and we're getting all of our marketing together, and you'll see a big push for that in the coming weeks. And but yeah, it was a great trip. I think Victoria might have some impressions too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Madam Victoria. So what you want to share about this homophonics encryptions, as well as your TAF experience, like your experience you can share with our audience. Yeah.
Well, I suppose that right now it's one of the leading tools that could help for GDPR and COVID inside COVID era, because in any case it will help to people make some fast transfers from one side and to code the transfer. So the issue of the homomorphic encryption, it's that you shouldn't open up your code to make some decisions. So all the calculation were just like coded, and that is why your big data is not open up for the market. So in that case, of course, this tool is usually used by logistic companies and in startups as well.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. I think now your turn, Mr. Tom Rose, also want to know some new point about these things, and he's a great global leader, so this is valuable for us. Anyway, like if you share some, like what are some of application of homomorphic encryptions with our audience?
There is really quite a few applications of it. Part of what's been said is about when homographic encryption hits its heyday, and it's not at its heyday yet, it becomes a Swiss Army knife of cryptography, since it can be applied to many, many, many different applications as you go forward. Some of the uh, applications you see it used most in today is in banking, uh, and really up in the cloud. As you see there, it's in healthcare. One of the promising application of it is combined with blockchain in the future to secure election results as you go, to secure voting and other things like that. And that to me is one place where it really can stand out because of the limitations I spoke about earlier. The fact that you really cannot have multiple users acting upon the same data because you have to have not only the public key but a private key. And once you have many, many users with the same private key, the um, encryption is broken there. The challenge as you begin to look at it is that it works very well in the cloud where you have an application accessing it. And that's where you see it mostly applied today, like in healthcare and others. But there's a lot of work being done to begin to transition it to other ways. One of the places where a tremendous amount of work is going on today, and this is something that developing nations and other things can really jump on it, is the supply chain security. Some of the recent events we see really how insecure supply chains are bad and how cyber criminals are taking advantage of it. Uh, and homomorphic encryption could be a way to help companies protect itself against these supply chains risks. If all the data is that your third parties use in your supply chain is encrypted and it's in the cloud, and the access is reasonable, there's no reason that the supply chain could not do it. Now, you see places where privacy is coming into play, and this is, again, a place where academia in particular can help understand homomorphic cryptography around that area. Probably a last couple of points on this one is that, find it where it is, you see a lot of places going into it. One of the places that haven't fully implemented it yet, but we're beginning to, is in different clouds you're seeing, like I mentioned earlier, Google, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft are all doing it. We're using an implementation right now of it in the Microsoft Cloud and Microsoft Azure, and it's called SEAL, SEAL, and it stands for Simple Encrypted Arithmetic Library, and it's letting us do some very, very simple analytics in this instance against student data. And that's what we want to do, is to keep it secure, is be able to stay at that level. Let's see this. And the other place I think you'll see there is there's some now consortia-driven activities. One of them that is real interesting because it was DARPA funded here in the United States is called PALISADE, PALISADE. And it's a general purpose lattice cryptography library. And it has a lot of applications there. You see others, though. There's another one out of the Seoul National university. There's ones, many different countries going there. There's frameworks out of the Turing Institute called SHE. If you go over to Dubai and at the NYU University there, they have a very interesting framework called E3. That with those frameworks, even the entrepreneurs, researchers, and governments can begin to lay the foundation to use a homomorphic cryptography where they need to use it and how it can be set up. But it's, again, still early. There's still those two big challenges left to solve, and that creates a lot of opportunities for companies to begin to bring to market solutions that can solve the problems, particularly the one of multi-user and the one of the very large set algorithms running against large data sets.
Thank you. Mr. Tom, I have different questions to you because you are working in Africa. You are president for one of the largest NGO and you have a very good team. So my question is that when you're working with the youth community and definitely your focus is Industry 4.0, what type of challenges these African nations has and how you want to help them, especially World Talent Economy Forum focus also Industry 4.0, the cutting edge technologies, climate change. So what's going on inside Africa and what is your experience and like what you want to do next 4 or 5 years?
Well, I have a real sense of urgency there, and I think we should all, because this is the youngest generation on planet Earth. A median age of 18 years old, and we like to say that the origin of humanity is quite literally our future. And there's still a big problem there in Africa of unemployment. And with the onslaught of AI automation, that's just going to continue as it takes over formal sector jobs. And so what we really need to do is, first of all, equip them with the knowledge and the skills training and the technology necessary to become a fourth industrial revolution powerhouse, but more so to start creating a whole new economy that's based on very human skill sets that can't be coded or automated. I mean, it's very important that we take this time. We're in a period now where it's going to be a lot of displacement, a lot of upheaval, a lot of change. And so it's incumbent upon us to figure out how we're going to create a whole new type of economy based on the things that we have intrinsically in our nature that can't be automated, that a robot cannot do. And we have a lot of these things that we got off track on developing them when the industrial age came through. And now it's going to be very important to empower, first of all, just to empower this youth. We don't have all the solutions. We don't have the right templates because we're an analog generation that's in power now. But so what we can do is just empower them, build stages for them, give them mediums to express themselves and to share their ideas. Because if we don't, if Africa doesn't really harness and become a 4IR powerhouse, it'll ripple negatively globally. And so we should really be concerned about this. We should really do all we can to empower this massive young generation. Within 100 years, within 80 years, they're going to have nearly half the children on the planet in Africa. We need to empower them. We need to learn from them. There's a whole new type of human that's emerging there, everywhere, globally. This hive mind that is emerging with these post-Generation X children. And so that's what we're doing. All we're doing is we're trying to instill this sense of urgency. We're trying to build as many stages and put out as many mediums of communication as we can, and to just empower these kids and empower these young people, or anybody with a bright idea that doesn't otherwise have resources or access to do so. So I think it's very important what we're doing, and that's the challenge, not just in Africa, but globally, is to really empower and figure out what these young people need to fix their future. And that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent. Madam Victoria, I want to bring another issue for you because World Talent Economy Forum from our Innovation Lab, we are trying to empowering women entrepreneurs. We will train 600 women next 3 months. And especially we are focusing on cutting edge technology. Yes, today's topic also very important. What is your advice for women, especially for developing nations? Another interesting things actually, one of my PhD on glass ceiling factors, as I do research in Malaysia and some developing nations, especially women empowerment, women leadership. Uh, my second one I'm doing on artificial intelligence. Anyway, uh, I'm observing that women like contribution in economy uh, naturally it's not converting in GDP, especially in developing nation, it's not converting in GDP. But women empowerment is very important, and women economical sustainability also important. That's why we are taking this initiative. Next 3 months, we will train 600 women entrepreneurs. Definitely, Mr. Tom Rose, you, Professor David Smith, I will invite all of you. You can train the women from the developing nations. So, what is your advice for them? How actually cutting edge technology can help them to develop their careers, and how you want to see the women empowerment next 3 to 5 years.
I suppose that as I look at our younger population in Russia, for example, no one afraid to earn money, and there is no gender difference between how you earn money. Maybe you will choose some service branches, not IT, but a lot of women are right now in IT as well. So my advice: do not afraid to be a woman and to be a smart woman. That's all. Because
Thank
we
you.
have they have some prejudices against this. Plus, you, if you are working in the man industry, you are not a woman, or you're not a feminine, or you're not so lady look, you have no such a lady look, or it's right. It's ridiculous. It's not right. So you're still a woman, and you shouldn't be afraid to be smart.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor David Smith, there are some questions from audience. Monica Shams, as you are subject matter expert today, why is homophonic encryption used in developing nations? How is homophonic? And Noor Fazrin, why are cybersecurity experts excited about full homomorphic encryption testing?
Well, like I said, one of the things about homomorphic encryption is that it lets you act upon the data that you have in your cloud or in your data center without having to unencrypt it. One of the best practices is you always should encrypt your data when it's at rest. But what that means is when you're ready to do calculations against it, run algorithms against it and everything, you have to unencrypt it. Then you encrypt it again. What homomorphic encryption does is let you, for a class of applications, run them against that data without having to encrypt it. Why is it very important for developing nations? Is that particularly in developing nations, some of your security practices maybe not will not be advanced. Really to handle cloud security well, you need some very advanced security professionals who have certifications like we've spoken about earlier this week with some of the security certifications, the cloud CCPI, others like that. Uh, in developing nations, those are hard to find. And homomorphic encryptions lets you still maintain levels of security without having to build the multiple layers of systems to really protect your data. Because data security, computer security comes not with just a simple firewall. It comes with building layers of protection together based upon it. So you start with external protection, but you have to go through stages of internal protection. You protect your network, then you protect your workstations, then you protect your servers, and then you protect your data. And then you put on what's called a trusted computer concept to even protect the calculations that the CPU in your machine is doing, because those can be hacked even down at the hardware level as well. So that is why homomorphic encryption, cryptography is important in developing nations. Hope that answered the question.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Tom Rose. One thing, like example, you are from USA, so on the other hand, you are developing an NGO in Africa. Why you are so like positive and getting all kind of inspirations? Because I believe that when you have to develop anything new, it need lot of energy, lot of effort. New challenges will come, and we saw that you are very happy uh, to contribute for African nations. What is the like
Well,
important things you find in Africa?
Well, that's actually where we need to start. TAS is not specifically an African NGO. That's just where we're starting, and because
Mhm.
that's where really the pain point is and the real need is. Because again, it's a young generation, they need to be empowered and to find their way to handle this next phase in human history. And so we're really just starting there because that's really where the primary pain point is. But this is a global effort. And even in America, we have areas in America with a lot of poverty that young people don't have access to, just as they have at least amount of access as some people in developing countries. And so this is a global issue. It's a local issue for me, but we're starting there. I'm thinking in a macro view, and it's also because Osunakachi came to me a couple of years ago to invite me to speak at a conference there. And that opened my eyes to the real potential and the challenge of Africa. When I went there, I was just amazed by this techno positive young generation. I hadn't had experienced that. We are so cynical here in the West, in the developed countries. Nothing excites us anymore. There they are ready. They're hungry, and we need that. We need somebody, a generation that is ready to take this on. So it opened my eyes up to the situation. It reinvigorated all of the passion I had when I was 19 and I started my student network. And it's really interesting that we're here because my effort called Earth Plexus back in the 80s was to increase communication between American and Soviet youth because our biggest existential threat was nuclear war. The talks were breaking down, Reagan was in office, and all this stuff was going on. So how do we fix that? My goal was, let's communicate more often with the young people in Soviet Union so that when we're my age now, we will have developed a dialogue. Then the internet came and ruined everything because now we can communicate with everybody instantly. But so that it kind of just reignited when I got to Africa. It reignited that whole passion I had when I was younger, and it came at the perfect time in my life. But it's a meta situation because it really happens to be the place that we really need to focus as a species, as humanity right now, and empower these people and break down all these xenophobic, racial things. We don't have time for that. And when you ask about women, I use the analogy or the metaphor that it's like all the soldiers have been used up. And now we need to enlist the women and the children. So we don't have time to worry about equal rights. I grew up with a very strong mother, a military father who was always stationed elsewhere. I have no problem taking orders from women. I have no problem understanding a woman is completely equal, if not more so than me. So we need to drop all this stuff. We don't have time. We need to focus on our women, let them take whatever power they need. Children specifically, we need to bring them to the table, hear what they have to say, what they need. And so if that answers your question, it's really about we're starting in Africa, yeah, just like we originally did, and we're migrating globally and it's only starting there because that's where the pain point is. But we know it's in Malaysia, we know it's in America, we know it's in Canada, everywhere, at Moscow, Russia. So it's about really mobilizing ourselves to empower the young people. We're kind of running out of ideas here. We're hitting the Rubicons of climate change and AI, and all of these existential threats are beyond us now. So it's time to let go of all of the limits we place on ourselves culturally and get to work. So
Excellent, excellent, Mr. Tomros. I find that how you're discussing uh, is from your inside. So you feel about African nation, you feel about the young populations, you have a great feelings about their cultures, and that is the way of improvement. If you do not have mental engagement with any projects, you cannot be succeed. So I'm sure TAF initiative will be very successful in Africa. And from our side, if you need any kind of support, any kind of initiative you want to introduce in Africa, and World Talent Economy Forum in any point will collaborate with TAF and support TAF, definitely we are always open. And I'm sure we are engaging with many corporations, government, and NGO, as well as different academy. They will support this African initiative. So thank you.
So
I believe
be
that you're
careful. Be careful what you wish for, because I'll message you later, because I've got some ideas to be doing some live brainstorming on some of these projects we're getting together. So
excellent, excellent, definitely. Madam Victoria, from our audience perspective, I just want to know, because they are asking question, but I love to know more, like what's going on inside Russia, what is happening with these youth communities, like how they're developing different startup and different solutions for Russia. Yes.
Well, what I see that a lot of people right now working in startup era and in startup and try to open up their business. It's a good trend for the company, for the country. In any case, this trend we see in Russia and Ukraine and former USSR countries. So it is good because people do not think that the government solves all the problems and try to be entrepreneurs. So all the trends are positive here in any case.
Mhm. Thank you. Professor David Smith, I know you are busy. There is one specific question from Alea. Why is homomorphic encryption process is slow? And what is your concluding remarks for today?
Uh, Homomorphic encryption slow is because it is, in essence, unencrypting, recrypting without doing the real encryption of the database on at one time. I will go ahead and post to the comments earlier in a minute some of the information on that about the IBM one. And IBM one came out very slow, but they've already been able to increase its speed by 1,000%. But it's still there. So it's going, it's working that way, but it is slow. My concluding remark on homomorphic cryptography is really that it's needed. It's getting better. The full homomorphic cryptography is getting closer and closer every day. Not there yet, as I mentioned. But when you have people like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, a lot others trying to do it, we're going to see it get better over time because it will become more business critical. So, Sharif, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor David Smith, for joining today's session. Mr. Tom Rose, yes, let's discuss about young people contributions for Industry 4.0. Yes, definitely. It's not off topic. I want to say definitely this is very important. So yeah, uh,
yeah.
what about your next conference? What is your plan? What you want to share with our
Well,
audience?
first of all, I'm sorry David went. I had some questions for him. I think I'm understanding homomorphic encryption better. Is if he sees this later, I'm asking if it's like an MP3 as opposed to a WAV file, and that the MP3 can use the resources of the system it's on rather than bring the resources with it. And I found a tie-in between this and what we're doing at TAFS, and that is that I understand that the homomorphic encryption is a way where you can attach this to and not have to go through all the encryption layers, right? to apply an algorithm or math to some data, right? And that's kind of what we're doing at TAS. We're trying to reduce the layers that are required for people to get into understanding that they're working with a viable partner or something. Our original goal is to become kind of the Better Business Bureau, where people can come if you know that you're a TAFs member, you've already gone through the process of being taken seriously. You've got certain criteria you've met to know that you're a serious player. And so that's kind of the way I've been tying it in with this homomorphic encryption. We're kind of doing that with companies and organizations in Africa. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on for this conference. Good segue here, in that it's going to be 150 attendees, very specific, strategically inclusive group of people who represent either large organizations or they are themselves produce large conferences. We want people who are movers and shakers to come, because it's kind of like, I see it as like a Davos of Africa in a way. We're going to bring in people who can really make serious changes and strategize a real continent-wide campaign just to empower the youth. We're not coming with any message. We're not coming with any particular way of doing things. What we're doing is we're coming with stages. We're like roadies. We want to come, set up a stage, flyers, whatever the medium is most appropriate for the group, and see what they say. We're not going to, it's a little precarious because there could be situations where we set up stages and we don't necessarily agree with or like what people are saying, but that's not our role. Our role is to empower. And the only way to empower this generation is to give them the stage, is to give them a way to do their selfies in a massive way. And so that's what this conference is going to be about. It's about bringing in some real movers and shakers, people who understand the sense of urgency here and how important it is to empower these people. And at the same time, we'll be reporting on projects that we're doing now, between now and then, for the next 4 or 5 months. And one that I'm working on will involve bringing AI into rural villages in Africa, letting it sit with them and find their pain points and help them. There's all kinds of different projects that people are going to be doing, and we're inviting people to do projects and to relate their projects directly to this effort in Africa and then report on it in March. So it's an exciting time. There's a lot going on, and you'll see us pushing our marketing out more and more as the weeks roll.
Excellent. I'm really inspired by your lot of commitment for Africa. This is the way we should support. Yes.
It's really for young people. This happened to be in Africa right now, but yeah, it's in young people in general. And again, I talked about this before. I am keeping a promise I'd made to myself when I was a young 20-something who couldn't get a baby boomer to take me serious. I said, when I'm that age, when I'm in my 50s, I'm going to listen to young people. I didn't realize at the time how it was going to be necessary to listen, because I don't have the ways to help them. And so for my own future and my own family's future, I need to listen to young people to figure out how this is going to work. So that's where my passion is.
Excellent. Madam Victoria, what you want to add? I think you are also with the staff team, and yes, they are doing excellent work. So what's your view?
I hope to see everybody on our conference in any case, and that we have some partnership before the conference as well. So I believe that every person should, every generation should socialize between each other and do not help to each other in any case, because we have some problems with the fathers and sons conflicts usually, and it's time to solve this conflicts for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Tom, you are also part of Transhumanist Party. Transhumanist, what I see from Asia Pacific, there are many scientists who are doing research, and they are also want to contribute. So your TAF projects is very, very important for scientific world. So how they collaborate with you, how they can engage with TAF, how these Asia Pacific scientists, corporations, even in Africa, actually, most of the investment and corporations go to Africa from Asia Pacific. So what will be their role, or how you want to invite them?
Well, the efforts of the USTP and TAFs are a perfect marriage. It's perfect dovetailing alignment, because TAFS is a transdisciplinary marketplace for ideas, and the USTP is made up of multidisciplinary people. There's any number of reasons people identify themselves as transhumanists, and it's whether they're into longevity, radical life extension, or they believe in cyborg, elective surgery, or they just believe in maintaining human rights to where people are able to do whatever they want to their bodies. There's every reason for somebody to identify as a transhumanist, and there's every reason for somebody to join TASK for the same reason. And it's because what we focus on at TAFS, it's futurist discussions. We're talking about the future, a very specific subcategories that we talk about, everything from sustainable farming to AI to space to, you name it, everything that is needs to be talked about now seriously for the future. And so does the USTP. The USTP is putting policies around it, having discussions about very serious issues that no other party is talking about, whether it's CRISPR or genetic engineering or space policy or sentient rights, I'm the director of sentient rights advocacy for the party. And so no other party is really talking about these things, and we need to be. We need to put some sort of framework around these things just so that when they happen to us, we have somewhere to go. And that's exactly what TAS is doing. All we're doing is setting stages and framing things for proactive and productive action. This isn't just about everyone talking about ideas. We're trying to find that sweet spot between what they just said and how to make that practically applied in the world. And that's really our role. We'll set up the stage, but we're not going to leave after the concert. We're going to stay and we're going to integrate you with whoever's there in the audience. So that's kind of what we do. And so that's what's exciting. And it's again, I'm back to being 19 years old again. It's a necessary phase for my life. So
Excellent. Madam Victoria, what's your plan? And specifically, if I invite you in Malaysia, what do you want to do?
Visit your conference.
Yes, we are 100% remote right now, 100% remote because of COVID. Even today, we are observing some countries, COVID actually increasing, like India, like Germany, like China, even China, COVID also increasing. But now we are 100% remote. Yes.
So if we have some offline events, it will be
In
awesome.
future, maybe in future, let's say after
It
4 or
will
5
be
months.
to make some events with the startup community, with the women community, with the young generation community, maybe some universities, and of course some historical monuments as well.
Excellent. Definitely, we're going to arrange it. Mr. Tom, my last questions to you. Yes, let's say World Talent Economy Forums. We have next 1 year lot of plan, lot of activity, lot of commitment with the government, largest corporations, and academy. But definitely, you as well as your TAF always very important for us. So I don't know if I know you will be very busy for March if you want to launch your program in March. But from my side or from World Talent Economy Forums, maybe in February, remotely, I think it will be easy for everyone. We can arrange a collaborative conference with TAF and World Talent Economy Forum, and definitely we will ensure some largest corporation from Asia Pacific who will join in this conference, and definitely those who have strategic plan to help the African nations invest in African countries and help your plan, your futuristic thoughts, and this way.
that's a great idea. So are you saying like we combine conferences? You're online. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're gonna need all the help we can get, whether it's on the ground or remotely. So
Yes, definitely. Maybe in February, as you are launching in March, maybe February 1st, we can arrange something. And that is the good news that with all of our experience, we are trying to develop a better strategy, and how actually you are developing your TAF, your team actually growing. I believe people need to support you. Organization need to support you, government need to support you, academy need to support you, because the more organizations can help this TEF initiative, I think that in the real life project it will be a great opportunity.
Yeah, we really do need to find sponsors. Victoria's on the case there. She's already got some great projects lined up. And yeah, this is a very important thing, and we want to find even just the right sponsors, or one or two major sponsors who see what we're trying to do. A lot of potential, a lot of opportunity, particularly for Africa, but for anybody who's going to be involved with empowering them. This is a great opportunity, and we've got the backing and the partnership of the South African Tourist Bureau, the government there, and they're very excited about what we're doing. They're really behind it. We're going to be making more formal announcements about this partnership in the coming weeks. And so, yeah, this is real. This is serious. And we're going to be launching a major continent-wide campaign with the right people who know how to empower and how to equip this generation. Because if we don't, we're all doomed. You know, if we really don't harness this moment and direct this young, powerful generation 4 IR, then we are in trouble.
Thank you. This is excellent discussion. Beside this topic, your idea, your work, I believe that our audience really impressed by your initiative in Africa. This is the way. This is also World Talent Economy Forum philosophy perspective, because we need to support more this developing world. And I believe with the help of all of the developed nations, corporations and governments, I think all of your project will be very successful. And from our side, if you need any kind of support, definitely we are open for that. And let's rebuild this new world. That is our objective. So thank you for joining today's session. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. Madam Victoria, what's your concluding remarks for today?
I wish to luck to any initiative and to your initiative and future conference in Malaysia as well, and to think positive in any situation.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tom, what's your concluding remarks today?
Yeah, just thanks again, Sharif, for bringing us on and allowing us to talk. You're a major voice. You're a major platform for this whole movement. And I look forward to our partnership going forward. We're going to take you up on that. And yeah, so just thanks again for allowing us to hone our message and to really promote what we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your support, because from the day one you are supporting also our initiative. Yes, now we are growing, and we can say that in Asia Pacific, in ASEAN, we will be, maybe next 1 year, we will be one of the fastest growing organization, because we are getting very good support from China, from Singapore, from Malaysian government, even Indian governments, Indonesia, Vietnam, Hong Kong, all of the countries, largest corporations and governments and the academy, they are supporting our initiative. And definitely, we want to be a very good friend of TEF. And your initiative, perhaps the best initiative right now for the young communities. This is the way we should think, and we have to do something for the youth community. And definitely, youth have many talented, and we are looking for talent people. When the talent people come together, they can change this world. Thank you, Mr. Tom, and thank you, Madam Victoria, for your excellent conversations. I'm sure our audience really like our sessions. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care. And especially I request all of our audience, please share our content with your government, with your corporation, with your academy. And by this way, we will change this new world. And definitely, I know there are many good people around the world. We need to connect all of the good people. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.